You would like me to reject you. You do everything you say to achieve that. Such reason does not justify your actions, because it is not necessary to commit sin in order to part from me. You can do that, I tell you. I have been telling you since Nob, when you came back to me, one pure morning, filthy with lies and lust, as if you had come out of hell to fall into the mud of a pigsty, or on the litter of libidinous monkeys. And I had to struggle against myself, not to repel you with the point of my sandal, like a revolting rag, and to check the nausea that was upsetting not only my spirit, but also my bowels. I have always told you, even before accepting you, even before coming here. Then I made that speech just for you, only for you. But you always wanted to stay, for your own ruin. You, my greatest grief. But you, O heretical founder of a large family that will come after you, you think and say that I am above sorrow. No, I am only above sin. I'm only above ignorance, above the former, because I am God, above the latter, because there can be no ignorance in the soul unspoiled by the original sin. But I'm speaking to you as a man, as the man, as Adam Redeemer, who has come to make amends for the sin of Adam sinner, and to show what man would have been if he had remained as he was created, innocent. Among the gifts given by God to that Adam, was there not an intelligence without impairment, and a very great science, as the union with God instilled the light of the Almighty Father into his blessed Son? I, the new Adam, am above sin through my own will. Just to clarify there, when you get the word science in Maria Valtorta's writings, that is knowledge. So Adam had not only a supreme intellect, he had a huge knowledge. And whether that was just things spiritual, it certainly was them, or whether it was also things of the universe, the material world into which he'd been placed as a material being by God. As a material being with a supernatural, spiritual soul, of course. The phrase Jesus uses earlier on is worth not going unremarked. He says to Judas Iscariot, "But you, O heretical founder of a large family that will come after you." There we have Judas being referred to as an heretical founder of a family which will come after him. And it's a large family. Why did he use the word heretical? Well, it suggests to me, and perhaps to you as well, that the heresies that have come down to us from the time of the resurrection and ascension into heaven of Jesus are founded in some sense by Judas Iscariot, because he says he's the heretical founder. And there are numerous heresies around the world. And some of these heresies are directly coming out of Catholicism, like the Protestant religion. Luther, Calvin were Catholic priests, Zwingli was a Catholic priest. But then there are those who are offshoots of heresies. So they become worse heresies, just as the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons are offshoots of Protestantism. Then there are the heretical elements in what we might call our sister churches, the schismatic churches of Eastern and Oriental Orthodoxy. Oriental Orthodoxy separating from us after the Council of Chalcedon, when we described Christ as having two natures, fully man and fully God, and as described by Jesus himself, earlier in this speech when he's talking to Judas. But those of the Oriental Orthodox Church, as it's now called, those based in the Alexandrine Church, as founded by St. Mark, they are what we call monophysites. There's one nature in Christ. The divine nature absorbed the human nature. So powerful was the divine nature that it extinguished the human nature. So monophysite, one physis in Christ. However, I must add the caveat that in 1973, I think it was that year, Pope Paul VI and the Coptic Pope, Shenouda III, signed an agreement, a document, which basically confirmed that the Copts do accept our understanding of Christ's nature, and that the problem was fundamentally one of misunderstanding of language. Now, I'm not competent to talk more about that, but if Paul VI signed it, and if he's a legitimate pope, then we don't call them in the Coptic Church heretics, at least not on that basis anymore. So I'll leave that point aside. As for the heresy of the Greek Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church, they deny the filioque, that the Father, that the Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. And they persist in this, and then they have a doctrine of hesychasm. They believe that in the Godhead there's an emanation of divine energies, which is not something which the Catholic Church teaches. And then you go beyond that broad umbrella of religions which say they are connected with Christ to Islam, which is on the fringes. It's the next to the kind of semi-Christian religions and the Christian religions, because whatever the origin of Islam, and don't take it as being founded by an Arab guy called Muhammad 1400 years ago in Mecca and Medina, and then and of the Quraysh tribe, and then it went on from there. That's just their stories, which were written down 200 to 250 years after Muhammad had died. There's a whole 2.5 centuries of oral tradition between the death of Muhammad and things getting written down talking about him and his followers and the founding of their religion and the writing of their book, the Quran. Now, no historian takes that seriously, and historians of Islam and of the traditions that were written down centuries after the events do not take it seriously either. Moltke, Joinbull, there are numerous names that one can cite from Western academe who do not take it seriously. So the question then is, who really was the founder of Islam? Who's the Muhammad of history if we speak of one individual? But we'll never know. It's not like the Gospels, which were written in the lifetime of the followers of Jesus. This is writings about Muhammad 2.5 centuries after he was dead. The next generation after him was dead. The generation after that was dead, and so on. But that religion draws on Christianity, of course in a distorted way, more distorted than any of the religions I've cited so far. Then you go beyond that. You've got Talmudic Judaism, which is modern Judaism, a religion more false than Islam. I emphasise that because people give Islam a hard time, quite rightly. It is false, dangerous, immoral, and wicked. But make no mistake, Judaism, Talmudic Judaism, is 10 times more evil, maybe 10 is a bit conservative, than Islam. The reason you don't know that is because the numbers of Muslims and their visibility currently causing so much mayhem in Western civilization, their visibility makes them seem more of a problem, and their religion more of a problem. But if you look at what has brought Western society to where it is, you'll realise what I'm saying has some merit to it. And that's whether we speak of the Talmud or not. The Talmud is deeply influential for Jews who are religious and Jews who are not religious. Don't make the mistake of putting too great a distinction between Jews who are not religious and Jews who are religious. It all comes from a time, all these people come from a time in often the Pale of the Settlement, Eastern Europe, when all Jews were followers of the Talmudic religion. It's not the Old Testament religion. They don't follow that. They're not particularly interested in the Old Testament. You've been led to believe, perhaps by born-again Christians, that they are interested in it. They're not interested in it. Their book is the Talmud and other documents, other books around that. And that teaches them about our Christ, who is in hell, in burning excrement, our Blessed Mother, who is I won't say the word, just won't say it, and has all kinds of grossly immoral teachings. But the reason you won't know about it is because the media, and they have their controllers too, the media won't tell you about it. So, of all the religions on the world, on earth, that's the one we must focus on the most, really, not Islam. Then we go way outside of Christianity to Hinduism. Well, that's kooky. That's a picture of what religion would be like if God had left the human race alone 4,000 years ago or thereabouts. Abraham is called about 2000 BC, 1800 BC. If God hadn't done that, and the whole plan of salvation was not planned out by him, then we'd be looking at the Hindus and we'd all be like that, with crazy religions. And I know it's not very ecumenical to call another religion crazy, but I'm not very ecumenical. But now, having said all that, Judas is the heretical founder. So he's not the founder of Hinduism. And I would we say he's possibly a spiritual founder of Talmudic Judaism? Well, we can say he's partly so, because without him, then there'd be an issue of what would have happened to the Jews. Would they have gone en masse to Christ? Not all of them, of course, but en masse, as opposed to a remnant going to Christ. We don't know. But the Protestant heresies, the schismatics and their heresies, they have Judas as their, quotes, heretical founder, unquotes. And that shows how important it is for the Catholic Church, no matter how much it dialogues, and boy does it dialogue, no matter how much it dialogues, the first duty of Catholic leaders, priests, bishops, pope, first duty is to ensure that the Catholic people know the Catholic faith forwards and backwards. And once that's known, to make sure those Catholics know that this is the one true faith. Only once that job is done, which is the only mission, that was the first mission Jesus gave. You've got to teach this faith that he's brought to us. And once you've taught it, then you go out spreading it to the world. And that's what the Holy Catholic Church did, making ours the largest religion on earth. And now that there are more Muslims on earth, that's only because Western medicine, Western technology has enabled them to have more and more children. But in 1950, there were hardly any Muslims on earth. They were in the hundreds of millions. It was a dead religion. So now it's growing numerically, but it's still as dead as it was back in 1950. But although the Catholic civilization has caused Islam to expand, yes, that's the way it went, caused it to expand, because of our technology and our administration and organisational powers, we have still in Catholicism that which grew to be the most powerful and greatest religion on earth. Numerically great, numerically the greatest, obviously spiritually always the greatest. And we can get back to that, but only if we do what the fathers of the Catholic Church said we should do. What we've been doing since about 1965, since the close of the Second Vatican Council, and I make no connection necessarily, not a direct connection, but an indirect connection with the Council and the disaster. Since 1965, with the close of the Council, we've been going against what the fathers taught. So we need to stop that. In fact, we could say 1965 to 1970, maybe this new way has got some merit to it, maybe it'll work out, maybe there'll be a new springtime. But now it's, getting on, it's well into the 21st century. Things are not getting better, they're getting worse. And they're getting worse more rapidly for the Catholic Church. So isn't it time to say, look, the experiment failed. Time to own up and to go back to a way which worked. Never mind the fact that it's the way of Christ, the way of the fathers. One could just take a kind of, if you're kind of not if you don't have any faith anymore, Mr. Priest or Mr. Bishop, then just do it on the basis of what succeeds and what doesn't succeed. A pragmatic approach. Go back to the old ways. We've seen the Anglicans, we could see where we were going to end up. The Anglicans were going down the toilet in the 1970s. We knew where that way leads. We've trod that road. Well, it's time to get off that road and come back to the way of Christ.